these chairs and tables. But I'm also not making everything up myself, and so the way I'm going about it is by first studying the way these features that I'm painting look like off screen or when I'm on the ground, because I'm actually close to the ceiling here. Then with that memorized, I can simply go back up and paint from memory. Now this doesn't apply for things like the tractor, for instance, but with natural formations like hills or trees or the outline of the lake, etc., I can be a bit more creative or more fluid with the way I paint them. So it's not particularly vital that each leaf in each tree perfectly resembles the one in the picture. But once I understand the way these trees behave, like their overall height, their general color, or their inclination, say if the wind was blowing, I can then create a believable scene even without directly looking at a reference photograph all the time. Acacia leaves form in clusters, so you'll get parts of the tree where there'll be so many leaves that no light is passing through. And so I'm going to start by filling up those sections of the foliage with nothing but opaque burnt umber. A smaller brush will then make them look a bit more like leaves, but not in too much detail as of yet. The goal in this stage is to give that illusion of them being leaves from a distance, but it's in the subsequent steps that the actual leaves will start taking shape in higher definition. So I'm going to do this through the entire upper part of the tree where the leaves are. Then the next step will be to paint, believe it or not, the individual leaves one by one. By the time you're viewing it from this angle, I've already painted the silhouette of the leaves towards the left of your screen in the kind of detail I'm looking for in this stage, and so I'll be trying to achieve that for the leaves on the right side. In the same way that I studied the way acacia branches part, I've also looked at a few acacia leaves to get a good understanding of the way they attach to the twigs and the branches. And so being that I'm starting with a silhouette, I'm painting those leaves that are around and along the edges of these completely blocked sections where there's too many leaves and so there's no light coming through. Now, of course, this is not a night scene, so when I'm through with painting it as a silhouette, I'll then use the green midtones, which would have been the green local color if I was painting it with the first approach with which I was painting everything but the trees before. And in what will be the longest process or the longest part of this painting in terms of how long it's going to take me, I'll now use that model of the way the acacia leaves look to imagine how they might be sort of organized around this foliage. It's not a windy day in this shot, so I'm not going to make them sway towards the left or the right, but instead they'll mostly droop downwards. And I'm trying to paint them as randomly as possible so that when I'm done, it doesn't look like I painted very symmetrical X's, even though that's the general idea of how I want them to fall. So I'll do this across the entire tree until there's no clump or no group of leaves that remains a pure silhouette. When painting objects like this acacia tree or something similar, it may be tempting to make these leaves, say, just a green wash, since it's something you can kind of easily get away with, especially if you get the shape of the acacia tree right. But if the goal is to make something look believably realistic, then attention to detail becomes an indispensable requirement. And so even for repetitive or tiresome sections like this one, this tree for instance took me about 5 hours to paint. I remind myself not to cut any corners even when it's tempting, with the thinking that if every single leaf on this tree will be visible or would be visible in real life, then with my style of painting, it has to be visible in the painting as well. I'm leaving some sections of these groups of leaves to remain as dark as they were when they were just a silhouette, and this is what will show some depth, so it makes you feel like you can insert your hand into each group or each cluster of leaves and kind of experience the depth in real life. And to enhance that effect even further, now that the dark parts are showing the inner sections or the deeper sections of these clusters of leaves, the leaves that are towards the outer part, or especially the ones that are facing the sun, will then appear brighter than all the others. And so the final task for the tree will be to repeat the process of painting brighter leaves, but now with a much brighter color, which again, as you can guess, is going to be a mixture of green, white, and yellow. This particular section is easier than the previous two, namely the burnt umber silhouette and the green midtones, and that's because only a select few leaves will be brightly lit, and these will only be the ones that are facing the sun directly. There's a final part of the tree that I haven't painted yet, and this is the shadow. So by remembering where the sun is located in this shot, which is towards the left, all visible cast shadows will face the right, and it won't be a perfectly horizontal line from one point of view, but rather they will look like they're going slightly into the painting. So the shadow of the tree will be visible, but the shadow of something like the wheat field will kind of go into the wheat field itself. So from one point of view, it won't be as visible. And since the tree is casting the shadow on the small hill, I've derived its shadow by mixing the color of the hill, not the color of the tree, with burnt umber, so that even though the tree is brown and green at the top, the shadow that it's going to cast on the hill will be purely brown. Unless an object is translucent or luminous itself, the shadow that it casts in such a setting will always take on the color of the surface on which the shadow is being cast, and not that of the object. The final addition I'll add to this painting will be some chicken.